very proud that Ben has been working on this throughout the interim from last session, and I'll introduce Senator Van Taylor who will lay out the bill. Senator.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate being here with all you and my colleagues. Before I begin outlining Senate Bill 14, the Ethics Reform and Anti-Corruption Act of 2017, I want to first take this opportunity to thank Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Patrick for their confidence that they have placed in me to tackle this very important issue. We have no more valuable bond in democracy than the trust people have in their government. And without Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and their leadership, strengthening the bond through meaningful ethics reform would not be at the forefront of the agenda of this legislative session. I want to thank my Senate colleagues. This morning I had the privilege to file Senate Bill 14 with 20 other signatures of fellow senators that signed on as joint authors. This shows not only the common sense bipartisan nature of these reforms, but legislatively there are now enough senators to pass this bill out of the Senate. At the end of the day, this is not Van Taylor's bill, this is not Greg Abbott's bill, this is not Dan Patrick's bill, nor is this the House author Chairman Charlie Barron's bill. This is the people's bill. Our government relies on the belief that elected officials serve the people, and that after the dust settles from important public policy debates, people have the confidence to know in no uncertain terms that elected officials work for them, no matter their party or position. Texans expect and deserve a transparent government that serves the people and weeds out politicians serving their constituent for any reason other than representing their constituents. There is no sugarcoating last session's ethics reform failures. However, it did provide the legislature with a clear roadmap for ethics reform. Votes were cast and politicians are on the record. What I tell my colleagues is simple. I'm going to talk to you about ethics reform, but good news, you've already voted for it before. The bill we filed today we're filing today in the Senate and the House earned overwhelming support last session, and there is no excuse to cheat the voters out of meaningful ethics reform. So we should get this done. This bill is built on 4 major pillars of ethics reform. The first is that corrupt and criminal politicians lose their office and their pension. The thought of a criminal elected official sitting in a jail cell getting a pension paid for by the very taxpayers that they have betrayed is just reprehensible. The language for this section of this bill comes from House Bill 681, which passed the House unanimously last session. And a similar provision passed the Senate unanimously through an amendment on House Bill 408. The second pillar is the disclosure of government contracts, bond counsel, and legal referral fees. We're all citizen legislators, not career politicians, and that's a good thing. It brings quality people from a wide array of viewpoints to craft solutions for our state, which makes for better public policy. But when government crosses with the private interests of elected officials, voters have a right to know and decide for themselves if they think that that arrangement is harmless or presents a conflict of interest. The language of this section is based on House Bill 1294 and Senate Bill 19, which passed unanimously the House and the Senate. The third pillar of ethics reform is shining the light on lobbyists, whining and dining their politicians. This provision cuts the reporting threshold in half. Further, it ends the practice of splitting the ticket, where multiple lobbyists can collaborate for an expenditure to get below the reporting threshold. The language of this section is based on Senator Watson's Senate Bill 585 and 586 from last session. And I just want to take a moment to pause. He could not be here today, but I want to praise Senator Watson for what he has done to champion this issue. He has been a champion for this, and he is the reason that this is here. A similar version of this third pillar passed the House with 125 members showing support for greater disclosure for this. And the fourth and final is putting a clear line between elected officials and lobbyists. Elected officials' job is to craft public policy. The lobbyist's job is to influence public policy.